Hey everyone, this is TimeRider, and what you see here is the Hot Wheels Anglia panel van, not to be confused with the saloon that Harry Potter drives. According to the Hot Wheels wiki, this casting was first produced in 2000 and is supposedly still produced today, although I didn't see any pictures of anything after 2014. Not that I looked. Anyway, it looked to be more of a billboard casting that was used as a promotional by everyone from Tony the Tiger to Hot Wheels themselves, which makes it great. Anyway, clearly the casting is a drag version of the van with wheelie bars and a chute, but it could be so much more. This was my muse, a nasty hot rod. So stick around. In the scheme of things, I was the one who picked this casting. I thought it looked like it'd be a fun casting to do. Usually, because of the limitations of what we're going to be working on this year, we're kind of married to street rods and things of that nature. And right now, I think this particular era of Hot Wheels is probably the best thing to choose. It was held together pretty typically with a couple of posts that needed to be drilled out, and I'm not going to belabor that. You've all seen how we do it. Once it was prepped, it was just a matter of popping it apart, listening for that wonderful popping sound that Paul talks about. Something really weird is Ford, because this is actually a Ford product, was... They had 30% of the British market at one point. They even had a Model T factory in Manchester that produced like 300,000 Model Ts. And then when the Model A came out, that wasn't received quite as well. There's a lot of detail in this engine. I kind of like it. I might do something with that, being as the front opens. The hood pops, it tilts forward. Need to tap them out, of course, so that I can get a button screw in there. Anyway, yeah, so the Model A didn't do so well in the British market, and that was when Anglia came about. And they actually, produced this panel van from, like, this particular iteration of it from 1949, I believe, until 1953. It's a neat little van. And I'm guessing it would probably make a pretty good racer. I'm sure it's really light. And then, like I always say, I gotta put it back together at some point in time. So there we go. Now it's just a matter of turning the whole thing around and doing the same thing one more time. Again, I'm using a 2-56 tap and 2-56 button screws. And now we're ready for the primordial ooze. Ooh, looks like I missed a little bit there, don't it? Sorry about that. Give it a shake for luck. And move on. In my research, I found this graphic that I thought was pretty cool. But anyway, my original plan for this thing was to polish it and use Spectraflame on it. And the funny thing is that it was really highly polished already, but it had those doggone casting lines. And I hate casting lines, so I started filing on it, which is what I do, in the hopes that I could use Spectraflame on it. It was a very dirty plating job, whoever did it. I mean, it's kind of hard to see, but there was a lot of imperfections that needed to be fixed. There was some grooves from the casting lines and whatnot along the side of the hood. And as I filed on this and sanded and polished and did the things that I did, something became readily apparent to me, and that was that this was already plated, and underneath that really bright, shiny top coat was copper. Now, I've since come to understand that that means that this plate is probably nickel. And, you know, what problems does that create? Well, actually, it creates problems of color and adhesion. The zinc plating is not going to be the same color, so if you have any sand-through spots, it's not going to match at all. But I found that out by accident, of course, as I was working on it, and all of a sudden I started getting through that very thin top layer of nickel. It's a nice casting, though. Yeah, the other thing about nickel, too, is very hard. So, you know, getting these casting lines off was a job, and they were just awful places on the casting. Very hard places to work. But I was undeterred. When I tell you, if you've ever done this, it's a job. And I actually wound up going a completely different direction, but I'll just let you see where I was going with it anyway. As I sand it, sometimes you can kind of see what I was talking about how the surface of that casting was deceiving. It was actually not very good for shooting spectraflame. Like if you look at the top right there, you can see all the pebbling on the back part of the roof. Well, if I shoot spectraflame right over the top of that, it's going to stick out like a sore thumb. It's probably the biggest single mistake I see guys shooting spectraflame, or maybe mistake isn't the right word. It's a deficiency, I guess, in my opinion, when they don't get the casting polished as much as they should for the spectraflame. Any imperfection shows right through. Using a white polishing block, which is kind of in the middle of the adhesive or the coarseness. It's kind of in the middle of my polishing pads. And I guess, you know, I show you this because, you know, it really is a lot of work. And probably the saddest part about this is that in the end, it didn't even really pay me any dividends. But that's very true of this hobby. A lot of times you'll get almost to the end, and the closer to the end you get, I've said this before, the bigger the risk for everything that you do. Now you can see the two spots of copper there on the top. And I guess that was the point when I decided, well, I'm going to go a different direction with this. I could have tried plating it, but I just thought instead I was going to do a little bit of experimenting, and I'll show you how here in a minute. Again, you know, I mean, you can see how good that casting is, but I wasn't going to be able to get it to look as good as it needed to look to shoot spectraflame on it. You know, I could have probably plated a few times until I covered the nickel completely, as long as I got the zinc to stick. I do also need to get this chute off of here because I'm not going to recreate a dragster. So I'm just going to grind this chute off the door. I painted the casting with silver paint from a rattle can. There's still some flaws in here that I need to address. And, you know, I've been on this kind of a quest to recreate metallic paints without metal flake. And, you know, all the base coats seem to have metal flake. And by using this rattle can, which is not really a metal flake, I should be able to use glazing and spot putty to fix the areas that I've already tried to file and sand smooth. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this sit overnight, and then I'll sand it smooth, throw another coat of silver on it, and then we'll hit the paint booth and start doing some finishing work. My original intention was to make this a 3-color project, and that was always in my mind. My hope, of course, was to use Spectraflame, and that's actually what I'm shooting here over the rattle can silver. That's root beer brown. And actually, I'm fairly pleased with, I mean, you can tell that it's not metal underneath, but you don't see the flecks of metal flake that you would if you used Tamiya silver or even Redline Shop base coat. Then, of course, once I get the paint on, I need to clean up that grill a little bit, and I use an X-Acto knife. Some people use sandpaper. Either way will work. Just depends on how flat the raised edge of your casting is. If it's really rough, then you almost have to use sandpaper. But if you got a nice, flat, nicely defined ridge, you can use an X-Acto knife. Be very careful, though. And, you know, my desire was to paint the grill black, so I did the outside first, so that when I'm peeling out these big sections, I don't ruin the entire paint job. You know, by doing the outside first, I'm containing that paint within the grill, if that makes any sense. So now I can just peel out these big sections of it. And then I taped off a part of the top, and I would have had bare metal there if I had been able to polish this, but I think this is going to work out okay. And I'm painting the top orange. I think brown and orange is a nice color and color combo. And of course, you know, I try to take my tape off actually fairly quickly after I've done the painting. Sorry about my hands, but I don't know that I could have avoided that. And then I sourced some decals online, and I didn't find out that they were translucent until just when I did this, when I put these on. And I was really disappointed. I was hoping for a little bit higher quality decal. I could have made these on my printer. That's, I guess, what disappointed me. Usually when I pay $5 for a decal, I think I'm getting a better quality decal than what I can make myself, and that wasn't the case here. But I did like these little accent panels that came with the decal set, and they helped me set off that silver a little bit. And of course, now I'm going to do the other side. A little bit of water down to keep the decal kind of mobile for a little bit. I will say at least they didn't break. A lot of decals break, especially when they're thin. And these were pretty thin. That's probably the only thing that this had going for it, as opposed to the ones I make here at home, is these were pretty thin. I use a toothpick. It works great for moving that decal around, rather than my finger or, God forbid, something made of metal that's going to put a scratch in it. Then what I typically do is just take a little piece of paper towel and use the capillary action in the towel to just draw the excess water up out of it. And let me start by saying right now that I do not own a Harley-Davidson motorcycle. And I've never owned a Harley-Davidson motorcycle. But what else can I use with this color combination, huh? Let's get the center of that grill painted black, which was what I intended to do. Then I was having a conversation with somebody on a channel about restorations versus customs, and I made the comment that customs allow you to hide things a little easier. And if you look at the roof of this thing, you see a mark on the passenger side. Well, now it's going to get a vinyl roof, which I'll be honest with you was not my intention originally, but it was the best way that I could think of to deal with the problem, because what wound up happening is I wound up getting a little paint chip there. So this is Redline Shop vinyl top paint, and I think it actually worked out pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. And so let's get on with where I wound up. So I bet you think I'm done, don't you? You know, I use decal setting solution on these decals, but even so, and it wasn't until I put the clear coat on, they curled a little bit. Almost made me wish I didn't put the clear coat on, but I like to clear coat over my decals because it really sets them as a permanent part of the model. So anyway, what I did was I decided to see if I could fix it. The fix was pretty basic. I just did a wet sand over the decal and took the clear coat down as far as I dared, taped off the roof, and shot clear coat over the sides again. And it turned out, I thought, pretty good comparatively. I took those wheelie bars off the back and just put a straight bumper. Those tires and wheels, they came from Treads, which is like in the far east. And I did a little bit of detail painting there on the hood and the headlights. Put another, Harley Davidson decal on the back. I wasn't entirely happy with the back of this thing, how it turned out. I was trying to save that body line that ran around the middle. If I had it to do over again, I probably would have just made the back doors smooth, because if you look at the street rod that I was copying, their back doors were just smooth, and they actually didn't have back doors. They just had like a plate back there. But anyway, and I did get an opportunity to do some detailing on that engine. I was very glad to do it. I think it really added. I did basically a dry silver over those intake tubes, and then a little bit of chrome on each tip, and drilled out the holes so that they were, so they're holes anyway. Painted the valve covers. It's a nice little toy. Thumb up if you like, thumb down if you don't. It don't matter to me. Make your comments respectful, please. This is TimeRider, and I'll leave the light on for you. Hey everybody, thanks for hanging around for this edition of The Bench. Just want to take a minute and thank all the other builders who participated in the Leap Year Anglia Invitational. You should see their names scrolling across the screen right now. So go give their videos a look-see. And if you head over to the Three Blind Mice Diecast channel, we'll try to keep up-to-date lists of everybody who publishes throughout the morning here. And then reminder to everybody that next month's build, picked by George Hodges, is this wonderful little, I think it's like about a 1970 GTO. It's a Hot Wheels, and I'm sure if you look around or you're not sure, just email one of us. We'll point you in the right direction. And on the auction front, oh my gosh, I couldn't believe the response I got to my auctions. You know, a couple people said that they wanted to have one of my wee little cars, but I was really very flattered by the response. So much so that I have more auctions planned, and I'm probably going to have about 4 of them start a little bit later on today. We're going to be looking at the 3E Porsche, the 24C Rolls-Royce, that Lincoln that I just did all that not too long ago, and of course then I'm going to do the Ferrari that I did, the Steve McQueen Ferrari. And then I like to pass on things. I found these little brushes on Amazon. I'll throw a link down below if you're interested. They're really kind of cool disposable detailing brushes. And then somebody else had also suggested using disposable mascara brushes for this. And I thought, boy, that's actually kind of a neat idea. And the stuff that I'm working on right now, of course, I'm still working on that Land Rover 90 for that Guess What Movie It's From challenge for Roverland. And I'm also working on this T-Bird, this Redline T-Bird. And yeah, I've had some interesting twists and turns with that, so we'll see how that turns out. But anyway, it's only the second one I've done, so you're going to have to cut me some slack. Anyway, that's all I have for everybody. Thanks for watching the video. I hope to see you at the next one. I'll probably be doing a coffee with Bill in about a week. This is TimeRider. I hope everybody has a great rest of the weekend, and please be sure to go watch those other videos.